Guys, welcome to the Pure Progress Lifestyle, where the only thing that matters is progress. Guys, I'm joined by a special guest. Her name is Sharni. Sharni, I feel like we're introducing you. Because you got such an impressive resume here. I feel like President of the United States has been left off here.
That's next. That's next.
Oh, okay. All right. I just want to make sure. All right. So not only are you a certified life transformation coach, but you're a business mentor, international yoga teacher, speaker, author, retreat facilitator with 16 plus years of experience in the wellness industry. And so I feel like that's why President of the United States should be next.
Okay, thank you. I'll put that on my list.
So without, I really want to get into this big topic right away because it's such a huge topic that I feel like it's over talked about, but very misunderstood. And that's the topic of burnout. What's your experience with that?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad we've got some time to talk about it because it's quite a long story in my
Yeah.
side. But my experience, I've been through two major burnouts in my life, what I would classify as major burnouts. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, and I was actually looking at some stats before we came on the call and just doing some research. And apparently now it's let me just make sure I get it right. The 89% of workers are have experienced burnout in the last year. But
Hmm.
that's like workplace burnout. And apparently the burnout rate is at 59% at the moment. That was 2022. It had gone up 13% from the year before. So this is really real. But how do you define burnout? I think that's what's always the most challenging because everyone's like, oh, I'm feeling burnt out. But what is that actually?
Hmm.
And what I discovered in my experience is that there's different versions of it. And most people just see it as a physical and maybe mental burnout, and that's in the workplace. But my first experience of burnout was actually emotional burnout.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's not really covered or discussed a lot in the world nowadays. And that experience was mainly because of my husband at the time, ex-husband now, he was diagnosed with bipolar 2 years into our marriage.
Hmm.
So it was working a lot with that mental illness and how to support him on his journey, how to get him healthy, just navigating what that was like being the partner on the receiving end of all of that. And so just me as a human being, I've got very much an empath. So I want to obviously make sure he's okay and that he's cared for and that he's happy. And I landed up totally losing myself in that situation because I was so busy looking after somebody else. And so in that experience, it was a lot of, and I don't really like saying this word, but there was a lot of emotional abuse in that situation
Right.
as well, and that I was experiencing and having to deal with. And so my health just totally declined. And
Hmm.
when I was chatting to a healer, because I'm always the go the natural route first kind of person. So was seeing all naturopaths and homeopaths. And I remember one of my healers saying to me that my adrenals had totally shut down and they weren't
Really?
even functioning anymore. Yeah, very scary. And she said if I didn't change my stress levels, that I would land up with some kind of irreversible disease like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, she said. And she said she sees it a lot in her stressed out businessmen, that they just push and push and push and push and eventually land up with this irreversible disease. And that
Do
was
you
a
mind if I
big
stop you
wake up call.
real quick? Do
Sorry?
you mind if I stop you real quick
Yeah,
and just kind of ask,
of course.
what are some of the signs and symptoms of adrenal shutdown?
Like I said, there's so many different ways of looking at it. And adrenal fatigue is what I was also diagnosed the second time I was burnt out. So
Right.
that was like the kind of like the medical term from one of my doctors. And it's just for me, it was at the second time was more now mental and physical because I was working myself too hard. That was very much I couldn't wake up and I couldn't get out of bed. So actually
Mhm.
both times. Can't get out of bed. You have such debilitating fatigue that you just can't function. A lot of
Mm.
brain fog, a lot of like just emotionally all over the place, crying all the time, feeling like I wasn't worthy, like I'm not good enough, which I mean is I think a lot of people are dealing with that anyway in general. So I'm not to say that's just because you burnt out, but yeah, adrenal fatigue specifically is that your adrenals aren't functioning anymore. So you're not, and that your adrenals are really attached to the kidneys as well. And in traditional Chinese medicine, which is what I really bring in, one of the ancient healing tools I bring into my program is looking at the kidneys. And the kidneys is they're your battery. You're kind of like your batteries of your body. They recharge you. And if that's not functioning, if your adrenals aren't functioning, then it means that you're not actually, your body's not able to recharge properly. And so you're totally out of balance and totally out of whack. And you just cannot literally walk. I remember not being able to walk up the hill without feeling like I was going to faint or I was going to pass out. Like I literally had that nauseous feeling. You know, that feeling where you got a bit of motion sickness, or you're in the car in the back seat and you're like, oh, I feel quite ill. I had that all of the time. And I know my friends that are moms, when they talk about morning sickness and what that felt like, that it was like, I was like, I feel like that all the time. So you're just not well. You're so not well. And so many people hide these symptoms or they try and run away from their symptoms or try and feel better. So then often it's having some, whatever they're doing, self-medicating or taking pills or doing something to kind of get them on track again. And I just feel like it's not really seen in the world for what it is at the moment. So yeah, it's a big issue in the world nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've noticed with a lot of people that they experience these symptoms, but it's always that perpetual cycle. Like maybe they're just being weak. And that goes for male and female. Maybe they're just not doing enough, or maybe they're just like they have a default, like a defect with their mind that they can't do it. And it's like, that's not what's going on. It's you're trying to do so much with so little that you're like, you only have 24 hours in the day. You only have so much rest. You literally are trying to conquer the world in one day. And it's like something's going to break at one point or another.
Totally. And I always say it's like, it's not that we like not strong. It's just that you weren't strong, or you were too strong for too long. And that's the thing is that, and I mean, I've got my ebook, I've written an ebook called Superwoman Unplugged. And just because it's Superwoman, men are welcome to read it as well. But it's very much the feminine mindset nowadays is we have to push, we have to strive, we've got to be more like men, we've got to, take over the world, and we have to be a good mom and a good wife and a successful career, person, and all these things, and put so much pressure on ourselves. And in the end, we feel like we have to be this perfect human being. And so many women are burning out. And so, yeah, I've written this ebook, it's a free ebook, which I'd love to share with the listeners. It's on sharniquinn.com/ebook. You'll find it. And just go there. It's a quick, easy read. It's take you 20 minutes. But it kind of gives the behind the scenes of why we've got to where we are nowadays and what were the reasons why. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, women come from this history of feeling like they've been suppressed and they didn't have a voice, they didn't have a say, and so really had to show up and really had to do everything they could to have equal rights. But nowadays I feel like it's gone the other extreme, and then women are now like being so much in that masculine energy that it's like, okay, I don't need a man now, I could do this all on my own. But that's also causing this whole, everything's just out of balance. And our superpower is actually being able to, as women, being able to really tap into that feminine energy and allow ourselves to slow down. And this isn't just for women, this is for everyone, men, women, children. But if we can all slow down and really tune in and let go of what is draining our energy and not trying to do 1,000 things in one day, like you said, and then really be able to that's when the magic happens, because that's when you can really tune into what is our life purpose and what am I here for, and how can I give back, and how can I give back to not only my family, my community, but the world. And that, why are we on this earth in the first place? Not to be killing ourselves working and trying to be the president of America or take over the world. It
Right.
really is just about, if we could slow down a little, it's amazing what actually happens in our lives and how we open up to the magic that is there. And that we just, it's so much easier to be in alignment. And that's when I feel like life really flows. So there's a reason in my madness of this whole message of trying to get the world to slow down and really just, be more in tune with themselves.
Without a doubt. How did you make that discovery where your energy has to be aligned? Like you were talking about, 2 years into your marriage, your husband was diagnosed with bipolar, but you were talking about you were already getting burned out, adrenal fatigue. How did you go from that to realizing, all right, I got to align myself here. Something's just not right.
Well, I feel like I'm a bit of a slow learner, so it's taken me a long time to figure that out. But literally life knocking me all over the place. I felt like I had been ridden over by a bus, and it was almost like, okay, Sharni, there's no other choice here. You have to find balance. You have to do things in a different way. And I mean, at that time, even before my husband was diagnosed with bipolar, we had started up our own graphic design agency together in advertising. So we were working in the company together. I was at my desk at 5:30 in the morning, working till 9:30 at night, no break in between. And in amongst all of that, I remember going to the gym once and trying to do an aerobics class. And I was in my 20s, and you got all these older ladies that had so much more energy than me, and I literally didn't have the energy. And I've always been someone who's been active and loved my dancing and could always move my body, and I just was totally flattened. And I was so surprised, going, why don't I have energy to be able to get through one class here?
Right.
And then at the same gym there was a yoga session. So one day I went to the yoga session, and I was like, wow, like that shifted my life,
Really?
because I felt so amazing after that class, because I realized, yes, I'm moving my body, but doesn't have to be crazy gym. And like, if I'm not going to be sweating, I'm going to be putting on weight. Like, that was always my mindset. And so just doing a yoga class, which means like in that session, you're moving your body, you're also doing breathing techniques, you're doing meditation, you're really focusing on tuning into yourself, you're doing the relaxation. And I was like, wow, okay, this felt so different. And
Mm.
from then I went to a yoga studio, which was very different to you doing the yoga at the gym as well, and absolutely loved it. And within a few months I had signed up to do my yoga teachers training, and had done a workshop, a weekend workshop with my coaching mentor. And it was all around purpose and intuition. And this workshop on the weekend just blew my mind. It was absolutely incredible. And on that weekend, I decided I'm leaving the advertising industry. Like, it wasn't serving me. I needed to get out of the company, and I wanted to go be a yoga teacher instead. Now, this
Mm.
is also in 2007, when yoga wasn't even a big thing. No one knew what it was. It was very, like, a huge, big risk, a huge, big, just trusting the process and taking a leap of faith. And I just knew this was something that I needed to do, because I also felt like I wanted more meaning in my life and in my work. I didn't want to just
Mm.
make things look pretty, which is what I was doing to being a graphic designer. And so I wanted to really make a difference in the world. And I went and did my yoga teachers training. That was 2007. And since then have taught more than 7,000 yoga classes. And literally, that's what changed my life, was that shift. And then doing the coaching program with my coach after that, and getting into more life coaching, which I did years and years and years ago, and realizing that it's all connected, and working more with different energies, and not this whole mentality of we always have to push hard to get a result. And so the combination of, that was like the beginning of the journey. And since then, I've studied traditional Chinese medicine, I've studied Ayurveda, I've studied, working with the chakra systems. So all these ancient healing tools, and it's incredible. They're all so beautifully aligned. And when you really tap into that, it's almost like this feeling of surrender and peace, and going like, oh, okay, I don't have to do this all on my own. I don't have to be pushing and striving all the time. And then eventually then doing my yin yoga teachers training, which was my big shift. That
Mm,
was in a few years ago. And that was when all the puzzle pieces kind of fell together for me, where I then developed my own program, bringing in all these ancient healing tools, as well as all the modern techniques and the modern life coaching tools and the scientific based yeah, like programs and things, and put it all together in this one redesign your life program. And so within that, it is a balance of the taking action, because we need that masculine energy of, otherwise nothing will ever get done. We can't just float around.
mm,
But we got to have that balanced with that yin feminine energy, and we all have this masculine and feminine energy within us. So
right.
it's all about like, how do you merge the two? How do you bring that back into balance? And so that's essentially my I created this 5-step path to living yinly, which is essentially bringing more yin to your yang so you can stress less and live more. And that's how we live our best life.
Mm. I got a couple questions here from that.
Sure,
One,
go for it.
let me, what you were just talking about, because there is so much masculine energy in the world. Like it's everywhere, you know? And do you feel like there's not like the feminine energy is what's missing now? Because I tell, men all the time, you like, yes, we're like hyper focused, hyper, this all the time. But have you ever been around a woman that just has this great energy? Like she's fun to be around. She's funny. It's just a joy. Like it just melts your stress away. That
Mm.
is feminine energy. So don't tell me that you just as likely don't need a female, because we need that energy too, because that's what makes being able to be hard enjoyable. So I
Yeah,
feel like
totally.
it's so missing. And being an expert as you yourself, do you feel like that is the one key ingredient that's missing in a lot of people's lives?
I would say yes to what you're saying, and I loved your how you described women in that space. And when a woman is really radiating, and you can just, as a
Mm,
man, you can just really feel that.
mm-hmm.
I would say it's not necessarily we need feminine, we need balance, which means that we need more feminine energy coming in. So it's
Right.
not that we just need that. It's like, how do we balance that out? And because everything is so, like the Western world, everything is so much in that power and action and striving and that masculine energy, which is so beautiful. Like it is so strong, and it's so great to be able to talk to you about it, being a man, because obviously it's very different, being a woman. But it's about, how do we come back to balance within ourselves as human beings? And I remember going on a training once and learning that if we want to be in balance, then we want to have, for ourselves, we all want to have a balance of 50-50 masculine, feminine energy within ourselves. And I mean, this has got nothing to do with who you associate with, or, genders or anything like that. It literally is just a balance of that masculine, feminine energy within ourselves. And in astrology, they call it the inner sacred marriage, which I love, because it's like
Mm,
your Mars and your Venus, your masculine and feminine. How
mm-hmm.
does that come? And because then it means that you don't need somebody else to complete you. And that's what I really believe in as well. It's not getting into these codependent relationships and having to
Right.
rely on somebody else to fix and save you. And when this whole beautiful human being that has this balance of this masculine feminine energy, then when you go into a relationship, then the relationship, let's say it's a heterosexual relationship, man, woman, then the masculine, for him to be in his masculine 70% of the time, and for the woman to be in her feminine 70% of the time, that's where the balance happens. So it's so beautiful when, men can really hold that space for women, and, be the protector, and have that strong, beautiful energy. And then the woman can and just kind of be her radiant, flowy, feminine self. And as a partnership, that works so well together when we in our energy, whatever that is, about 60-70% of the time. But then for ourselves, it's about that 50-50 balance. So like what I was saying, like there's so many women who now are going like, I don't need a man.
Mm,
And I would listen to friends of mine in Australia just talking about this friend of mine who's such a sweet guy, and I love him to bits. And he held a door open. He's a lawyer in Sydney, and he held a door open for one of his colleagues, and she literally ripped him apart and was like, don't hold my door open, I can do it myself, and just like laid into him, this poor guy. And he's so
really?
sweet. And I know, and I just thought it's so crazy because women really, we really want, like deep down, we all want a gentleman that can, that's going to open the door for us. And so I feel like we've lost that. And it's just so interesting listening to you and saying that men feel the same as well, that they're going like, I don't need a woman. I can achieve what I need to do without that. And not to say that we all need to, like I said, we don't all desperately need to be in relationships, but if you're a whole human being yourself, then you attract other people that are on that same wavelength and on that same vibration. And that's where the power comes in with that feminine energy. It's about attracting in what we want in our lives. So attracting in the relationships, attracting in the clients, attracting in the finances and the abundance that we want to create, instead of having to always be pushing and forcing and controlling. Because we all know in
mm,
life, you try and control stuff and it never really works out how we plan it anyway.
no,
So
no, no, especially when you're like, I'm going to take control of my finances. I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take control of everything. And then when things aren't working out, you get frustrated. And then you're like, why is nothing working? And then here comes, it's like a step-by-step process. Here comes the burnout. Here comes, all this misery instead of just
totally,
taking care of what you can take care of. Like, stop
totally.
trying to
And
control everything.
stuff trying to control everything. That's one of the biggest things. And in my program, it's literally the 5 steps. Is the first one is letting go. So it's like, let go of trying to be in control. Let go of what is not serving you. Let go of toxic situations or people or work environments, and what is draining your energy. And you need to really get clear on what that is, and then be willing to release that. And so often people get so stuck in their comfort zones because they're like, okay, but I don't know any better, I'm just going to stay here. And that's not helping anyone. And if you
Mm,
don't actually let that go, it's kind of like the universe will make it happen for you. So like you might be getting retrenched, or your partner might walk out on you, or something will happen to make you, be more aligned. And I just see those as beautiful gifts in our lives, because that also, I've had enough of those in my life. And that's when it's time to reassess everything and go, okay, things need to be realigned. And yeah, that first step is really like letting go, release what is draining your energy, what is burning you out. And burnout, a lot of it has to do with our mindset
mm,
and our limiting beliefs. And I know for me, my belief was always, I have to work hard to be successful. That's
mm-hmm.
what was always driving me.
Yeah. I think that's with everybody. Everybody's taught you got to work 26 hours out of a 24-hour day. And that's every day. And it's like, dude,
Well,
how
yeah.
are you ever going to live? You know?
Totally. And I can definitely, share that that's not the way to go. Because I mean, in the last 5 years, I've been living in Bali. I've been living on a tropical island. And most people, like hardly anybody's, well, I mean, they are working, but it's a very, very, very different environment. No one's in the 9 to 5, office job. We go to yoga at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll have a smoothie afterwards and have a chat, and then maybe meet up with a client and work a little bit online. And, so it is a whole different mindset and lifestyle, but also because we're living a very simple life there. And, I did a whole huge sweeping of letting go of stuff. That's also a
Mhm.
big thing, letting go of stuff. We don't have to be accumulating a whole lot of stuff that is just weighing us down. So I had very little, to very little expenses as well. And then you can live a much lighter, more carefree life. So it's all these mindsets that keep us stuck, and thinking that being successful is having to work hard, or having a great car, and having a beautiful house, and having all these things, or having 1,000 pairs of shoes. And yeah, I suppose nowadays we have social media where a lot of people are seeing all of this on Instagram and aspiring to that. And it's not to say you can't have nice things. It's about not being attached to them. So if you lose all that stuff, who are you as a human being? And
Mm.
don't let that define you. And yeah, but I mean, promise you, I felt so much lighter when I let all that go, and then totally shifted my life. And then went to Bali while I was running my retreats in Bali. And then it was about realizing how bad my burnout was. And it wasn't, I didn't just need sleep, because I had been in an ashram for 10 days recovering after one of my retreats, because I normally just take some time out for myself. And I was sleeping so much, and I still felt so weak, and I felt awful. And that's when I realized, oh, wait a minute, something needs to shift and change that. And it's not just rest that I need. There's more. There's a whole lifestyle and a whole life that I need to change. And in that moment, I literally, the guy that I was dating, I broke up with him because I said, I need to stay here in Bali for my healing journey. I, got rid of everything in my life before I'd left. And I sold my company. I mean, at that stage, I'd built a whole wellness company, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I've got nothing left to give. And so sold my business, and did my own 3-month burnout and recovery program over that time. And it was more than just rest. A lot of it was that I needed to rest my mind as well, not just the physical body. So what did I need to do to totally change that and change my mindset? And that's where like a lot of my program is based on that, like my own personal experience and finding all the different healers and what worked for me. And I mean, I've had studied and been doing all these modalities for so long, but my mindset was still working too hard, putting too many hours in, giving to everybody else, not giving back to me. And even though I was doing all these healthy things that everyone says, like, eating well, sleeping enough, doing my yoga, doing my meditation, I still burnt out. And so for me, it was that mindset that needed to shift and change. And that was pretty major, having to figure out how to do that.
Right. So how do you go about resting your mind? Because I feel like that's definitely easier said than done, especially for someone like me, because my mind is always wanting to go, 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 go. And I got to tell myself to just chill out.
Do more things. And
All the
exactly.
time. All the time.
Do you do any meditation or anything, Brett?
Yes. So actually, one thing that I do is when I wake up, it's still, rather dark. So I sit in silence and I just don't, I try not to think about anything. I just focus a little bit on breath and then just try to just not focus on anything. Like it's almost like I'm not allowed to allow myself to be stressed, think about work, think about any of these things. And I do that for about 5 to 10 minutes a day.
Amazing. And how do you feel after that?
There's such a big difference, because I know the days that I don't complete it, it's like night and day. I'm way too stressed out, way too this, that, and I can feel it. Like even my own parenting, I'm like, I'm not the same father as I could be. So I'm like, all right, I always have to make it a priority. Wake up, bam, that's it. I got to get my 5 to 10 minutes of silence in.
And it's almost like a non-negotiable, because what happens if you don't. And it affects everybody else around you as well. It's not just you. So like you said, you're a better father and a better human being when you're taking that time out for yourself. Right. So I would say meditation is definitely, or just having some silence, or just being able to have some space, helps so much. So some mind space. And often we're so busy doing so many things, and there's just so much noise in our life all the time. So whether it's being on social media or, there's so much happening. Like, how do we take that time out? How do we quieten our mind? And I actually did a full day meditation day on the weekend with my TM meditation teacher, because I do transcendental meditation. And it was so incredible. Literally the whole day, we literally just totally did yoga, meditation, breathing, pranayama, and relaxation. And we did a few rounds of these, and then had nurturing food, had beautiful friends and company there. So we have a little chat during lunch. But essentially the day is just like digital detox. You don't have your phones around. You're taking 2 to 3 hours of just full rest. And when do we ever give ourselves that time to do that, when life is busy and crazy? And so creating space is such a way, like a physical space in your diary, like block it out. When is like my me time is so important. And to create space in our mind is, it's almost like being able to do a gym session. We have to make space for that in our life. So it's the same with our minds. Like, how do we then create a bit of mind space for ourselves? And my meditation teacher actually said, she reminded me, she said, because my one meditation was quite busy and my thoughts were like going crazy. And she reminded me that thoughts are actually stress. It's like stress being released. So when you're having a lot of thoughts, it just means that a lot of stress is being released from your body. And I love that, because I was like, because you're so many of my clients and so many people come and say, oh, I can't meditate because my mind just keeps on, I can't get my mind quiet. And obviously, eventually that we're kind of working towards that, but meditation isn't just to have a quiet mind. And so knowing that if you've got a lot of thoughts, it's actually like stress bubbles kind of releasing from you like that. It doesn't that make you see things a little bit differently?
Yeah, I got to write this down. So
write it down.
yeah, I got to write it down.
Yeah, so I love that. And it was just a reminder that when I have a busy meditation, there's still so many benefits, for that as well. And yeah, meditation is it's so powerful. And taking some time out, like you said, just 5 to 10 minutes in your day. So many people say, oh, I don't have time for meditation. But then I see them liking and commenting on all my posts on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. No time for meditation, but you have a whole lot of time to scroll. Like, that is what are your priorities?
Social media is like the biggest mind screw of them all. Like,
totally.
how many business coaches, people that are millionaires, tell you about you got to work all the time, but here they are on their yacht, just talking about you can't ever take a break, but they're meanwhile taking a break right there, shooting that video, telling you how to get done.
To do that, exactly.
What is going on here?
Yeah, well, I'm the opposite. I'm like, have more space in your life, take more breaks, and you'll attract more success in. But yeah, essentially that whole, I mean, there's so many tools and so many stories that I'd love to share. And but I mean, like I was mentioned to you earlier, I actually have an online course called Burnout to Bliss, and it's $47. It's like super reasonable, because I want to be able to just give access to people. And essentially that is, I share, and I've actually written blogs as well, so they can go and check out my website, sharniquinn.com, to all your listeners out there, and just go and read my blog. I've written 2. So one is like my burnout, the burnt out yogi is what I was calling myself at that stage, burning out, having a wellness company. It's just so ironic. So it's my story of being the burnt out yogi, and then also my burnout recovery journey. So I literally document when I was doing my 3-month program, I was documenting each week how I was feeling and what I was doing. And I actually filmed it at that same time as well, which was fascinating, because I remember thinking to myself, other people are going to benefit from this. Other people are going to, they're going to be able to also, the other people out there that are also going through burnout. And I felt so awful in that moment. And on week 1, I'm literally like crying in the camera, and I was just so emotional. And I could literally only do one thing, like go to the grocery store. And that was all I could do in the day. And I literally was in bed the rest of the time. So I've filmed that all, and I put that all into a blog so people could see like the transformation that happened over those 10 weeks. And now I've got this Burnout to Bliss online course, which is, it's an hour video every day. There's a worksheet that happens every day. So it's super easy to be able to digest, and covering the basics of how to support yourself and how to not burn out. So I would rather focus on burnout prevention rather than burnout recovery. And, rather don't get to that point of total burnout like I did. And so that Burnout to Bliss program or online course is really looking at your lifestyle habits, looking at your exercise, your health, your nutrition and your eating, and also like the cycles of nature, because I work a lot with that. So it's a really simple one to be able to digest. And then from there, I've also got my full 10-week life transformation program, which is essentially everything that I learned from my own experience, plus all the ancient healing tools that I've learned over the last 16 years, plus all the modern, like I said, life coaching tools and my own personal experience, all brought into that one program. And that's the Redesign Your Life program. And we go through there's a weekly program, and essentially each week is broken up into body, mind, and soul. So we're looking at yoga. I've got yoga videos in there, and it's all filmed in beautiful Bali, so it feels like you're doing yoga outdoors. We look at meditation. We look at visualizations. We've got breathing techniques and mantras. So very much that holistic side of things as well. And then looking at nutrition and life coaching questions. So really interesting and thought-provoking questions to help my clients really just look at their lives and go, okay, I'm here at the moment, I'm feeling burnt out. What do I need to do to get to a better space? And if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. Doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter what relationship you're in. You could be the most successful person in the world, but if you are flattened with burnout, you just don't function. So we really need to focus on looking after ourselves. And yeah, I'm really passionate about this whole journey and supporting my clients. So I've got those online courses that they can do in their own time, but then we can also do one-on-one coaching as well, where I really support them through that process. So it's essentially like a 3-month program. We do a whole roadmap for them in the beginning, looking at all areas of their life, and then the online coaching, the online course, and then just being able to really help them, get to a totally different place. And it's just incredible to see, the success rate of my clients and where they're at afterwards, and how they literally have changed the way they do things and totally changed their lives. So yeah, very passionate about what I do and what I'm sharing, as you can hear.
That's beautiful. What are some of the things that you notice with your clients right away as soon as they're able to implement what you teach?
Well, actually, I've actually just been writing an emailer to my database to share one of the stories of my client that from the last 2 weeks. And she's a woman in Saudi Arabia, okay, which I find so fascinating, because
Right.
it's a very different culture
Yeah.
to America, and even to, where I'm from in South Africa. And so talk about not having choices and women feeling trapped, and a whole different ballgame. But she wanted to do things differently. So she doesn't want to be necessarily, she's 34 years old, doesn't necessarily want to be a mother, doesn't want to be married right now. And of course, in their culture, it's like you grow up, you're a woman, so you're a wife and you're a mother, and that's your role. And she really wants to make a difference in the world. So when we connected, she was like, oh my word, I can't believe there's other women that are out there doing this. So it's been really beautiful to work with her. And I think we're about halfway through the program now. And like 2 weeks ago, what we were working with, her biggest limitation from stopping her from actually doing what she wants to do is fear. So she wanted to go from transforming from fear to more like trust, like trusting that the future will be okay, and that she is supported, and that she will, have the courage to be able to step out of this situation that she's in at the moment. And so we did this incredible, powerful coaching session, and this one tool where it does take you back into your past. And the coaching is very much around looking at your present and your future, and how we can get you to where you want to be. Whereas therapy is more about dipping into the past and working on past traumas and things. So we don't really go into that too much, but this one specific session, there's an incredible, really, really powerful tool that I use that dips into a little bit of past stuff. And so we really worked on that for her. And after that session, it was really powerful, and she had a big shift. The next week, when we had our next session, she was telling me the story, and she said that she had taken the day off, and she had gone off to this amazing spa at this resort, and had this incredible day. And everyone else is sitting on their cell phones, and she's watching the birds, and mind was very still, felt very calm, had an incredible day of self-care. And then driving on the way home, she's now on the highway in the middle of nowhere, and she feels this car jerk, and she smells the smell, and she's like, oh no, what's happened? So she stops the car, and she gets out, and her tire has totally burst, and it's like literally ripped into shreds. And she doesn't have any cell phone signal where she is. She doesn't have insurance to come and tow her car away. She's literally like totally stuck there. And she said normally in that situation, she would be totally freaking out and wouldn't know how to handle it, and would just be, like in this fear mode of not what's next, and she doesn't know what's going to happen. And she said, because she was in such a good space, because she had such a good day, and she's been raising her energy and raising her vibrations, and we had this session the week before, and she's shifted her mindset, and kind of, it's always a process, but she had been releasing this fear. she said she just laughed in the situation. She's like, okay, well, I'm just going to trust the process and know that I'm supported and everything's going to be fine. And I just love that that was what she was thinking. And she said within 10 minutes, she's decided, okay, she's going to start hitchhiking. Within 10 minutes, these guys stopped and to help her, fixed her car, changed her tire, drove her back home, and on the way took her out to eat and made sure she had some food, because they were like, okay, we need to make sure you're fed. Dropped her off at home, make sure she was okay. And she said in the end, they were thanking her for being such, like, raising their vibrations, because they thought she was amazing and she was telling them all these stories. And they said the same thing had happened to them a week before that, and it took them 6 hours to wait for someone to come and stop for them. So her lesson really was, she's like, this was like a lesson from the universe to like put it into practice. And her lesson was that now that she had let go of this limiting belief and this whole idea of getting caught up in fear, she, you know, I always believe it's always really about, yeah, raising our vibration, and there's different ways of doing that. But for her, she had done that so much that the situation, even though it was tough, she managed to get out of it in a really smooth, calm way without any drama and trauma. And a lot of that happens with my clients, is that all of a sudden life isn't so hard anymore. You know, like they have situations, because life always happens, we can't avoid that, but it happens in a way where it gets easier and easier and easier. And so it's like being in the flow and not being against, kind of, you know, when you feel stuck and you're going against the flow and you're trying so hard and you're putting everything into it and it's just nothing's working. Like my clients, most of their stories, it's about how things have shifted for them, where everything starts working and flowing and life is just like opening up for them. And yeah, I love that. I love hearing those stories.
Sounds like she's really starting to master the art of letting go, of just letting the universe take care of what the universe has to take care of.
Exactly, exactly. And trusting that, you know, we're in the right place at the right time, or even if we feel like we're not, that there's a reason that this is all happening. And if we can just see the gifts in all of those situations and learn how to grow from that and evolve from that and not get stuck in this downward spiral the whole time. Because I mean, you know what it's like. It's so easy to get stuck in the negativity. You know, life happens and it can be really tough. It can be really hard. And it's not all about, you know, rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. I wish it was. But we
Right.
here, I call it Earth School. We're here on Earth School to learn and to grow and to evolve. And so, you know, stuff is always going to happen. It's just really about how we handle it and how we deal with it and what our response is to that situation. And so with my clients, a lot of them are, it's about working on how they can respond to those tough situations, and things like yoga and meditation and doing less in their lives and letting things go. And yeah, all of that really, really helps. So yeah, it's a whole process. But essentially, you know, my process is that step number 1 is letting go. Step number 2 is recharging. So it's like, how do we recharge our batteries? How do we plug in our energy again? How do we really get to like, we need to rest. How do we balance all of that out? And then step number 3 is all around our work and our purpose and what we do, and making sure that we feel like, you know, we really want to get up and be excited about what we're doing, and, you know, feeling like you are happy with your choice and your job and your career. And it's not always going to be easy, but at least feeling like we are, yeah, making a contribution. So that's step number 3. And then 4 is all around, it's flourish. So that's all around relationships and how to maneuver, or not maneuver, but how to really draw in and attract the right partner in your life. But you first need to be in love with yourself and being able to really, as I was talking earlier, have this balance of this masculine and feminine, and have that self-worth and have that self-confidence and value yourself first. So it's really working on that. And then step number 5 is all about manifest. So then it is, how do you manifest in that abundance? And whether it's financial abundance or just really, you know, all these beautiful gifts from the universe. And that was a perfect example with this client. She kind of attracted in help and support even when life was really tough. So yeah, those are the 5 steps. And it all looks at different areas of our life, our lifestyle habits, our health, our work, our relationships, and our wealth. And so covers all of those different aspects. And when you are so aligned with all of it, just life is beautiful. And it flows. And even when the hard stuff happens, we know how to handle it.
I love that. You know, one thing I do want to go back to, step 3, is
Yes.
because I feel like that's so like incredible to unlocking somebody's like vibration and just like their energy, like their masculine energy, their feminine energy, is meaning. How do people find more meaning in their life? Like their purpose. That one's, people get tripped up on that so much. So, I mean, they can hear me talk about it so many times, but I like how you deliver it. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, meaning, wow, and purpose. I feel like purpose, people get so freaked out by, or just get stuck with like, I have to live my purpose, and then
Right.
are so busy searching their whole lives trying to figure out what job is on purpose for them. But and it can be very stressful actually, and a lot of pressure, especially nowadays in our lives. It's not like our parents or our grandparents who went and did a job and they're a teacher or an accountant or something. Like nowadays there's just so much variety. It's like, what do you choose, and how do you know that this is on purpose for you? But what I learned from my mentor is, she says, your purpose isn't what you do, it's who you are.
Mm.
And I feel like that is so powerful, because your purpose is really being more you. And if we could all just be more of ourselves and knowing ourselves more, then imagine how powerful and how incredible the world would be. Because we're not all trying to be social media influencers, or we're not all trying to be the next, the latest fad. Like some people are meant to be accountants because that's who they are, and that's just what they're good at, and that's where their gifts are. And if we can all just tap into our gifts, then we'll have this beautiful variety of people in the world doing what they love. And when people wake up in the morning and are excited to go to work and are doing what they love, then I mean that will totally radically shift the world. Because we're not all, because everyone is actually excited and inspired and out there making a difference. But it's about discovering what your gifts are and then being able to work with that. And in my program, there's a lot of different tools on knowing ourselves more. So like almost like personality tools. And we use a variety of things, from astrology to all sorts of things like your birth chart, because and what I love is just doing this research on myself. I've looked at all these different modalities and they all say exactly the same thing about me. They just say it in a different way.
Really?
So that's what's so powerful. Yeah. That's what's so powerful, is that you'll be the same if you look at human design, or if you're looking at your Enneagram, if you're looking at your astrology birth chart, or if you're looking at your wealth dynamics, or, there's so many different things of looking, way of learning more about yourself. But they all tell you the same thing, just in a different way. Because that's who you are. That's your essence. That's who you are as a person. And when you know that, you know what career is going to be best for you. You know whether you're meant to be out there being a speaker and being on stage, or if you are better supporting somebody else and being in the background and being the organizer and the planner. So once you know that about yourself, then you're not trying to force anything. You're not trying to be in a job or in a career that somebody else says would be good for you, or somebody else thinks you should be doing. And this whole thing of like living this life that we should be living, it just, oh my word, it drives me crazy. Because so many people are studying things because their parents think they'll earn a lot of money off that, or anyone. It's just that a lot of us are doing things for other people. We're not necessarily doing it for ourselves. And the more you know about you, the easier it is to live on purpose, because you're like, oh, okay, I know that I'm good at this. I know this is where my gifts are. I'm not so good at that, so I'm not even going to go down that road. And it just makes life so much easier to find that meaning. And you feel it. We all feel it when we're on purpose. Like it's like that internal inner spark and that drive. And then you just want to do these things, and you're excited to talk about it with everybody else. And so you want to make a difference. You want to, whatever that is for you. So that's really important, to have that meaning and have that purpose. But the one thing I learned is that even though we can be on purpose, we can still burn out.
Oh yeah.
And that's what happened to me in my second burnout. Yeah.
Without a doubt. So then real quick, how you're saying astrology can help you find your purpose,
Definitely.
your personality traits.
Yeah.
Like what is there any specifics? Because I knew this lady once,
Mhm.
and there's like, gosh, I'm not too familiar with astrology.
Mhm.
Um, even though I should, like it's really great. People love to talk about astrology, so I should
Mhm.
definitely dabble into that. But I forget what she was like. There's some like how the sun or moon lines up. Like that's how you're really um your real personality traits come out. I can't even
Okay.
remember what it was called, but I remember seeing,
Yeah.
the chart that she had made for me, and I was like, wow, that's spot on. Like
Wow. Did you find
spot
that?
on. Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
because I was never one to be a believer in astrology,
Mhm.
when somebody like a daily horoscope is going to tell me how my
Yeah.
life's going to be lived. But that
No,
could
I get
easily
that.
be into, I gotta let go sometimes of control. But so astrology,
Mm.
is there any like specific astrology?
Yeah. So astrology, I feel like astrology kind of has a bad rap because of the horoscopes in the
Right,
newspaper.
right, right.
And they'd have like, oh yeah, because you're a Cancer, you're going to on Monday at 5 o'clock, you're going to meet this tall, dark stranger or something.
That's
Like it's just,
that's
you
me.
know,
I'm the Cancer. So we're like,
how are
oh,
you? Oh,
yes,
there we go.
yeah. So it was like I never agreed, like I'm just moody. And I'm like, I'm not just moody, but I don't get
No,
it.
there's so much more to me.
Right.
Exactly. And it's so true. Like people have this perception of you because you this one archetype. But what I've learned is that there's it's not just all based on our moon sign. And so much of astrology has always been like, oh, just looking at your horoscope, which is your moon, sorry, your sun sign. So normally it's like everyone's looking at their sun sign. And there's different schools of astrology and different schools of thought. So they might be looking at different things, but I'm very interested and fascinated with shamanic astrology.
And
And
how do you spell that?
my shamanic,
Shamanic astrology.
yeah, yeah, shamanic astrology. And there's an incredible, my astrology, or my astrologist and my astrology teacher, his name is Levi Banner, an American guy who's been living in Bali with us for years and years and years, working at the yoga barn. And I first went to him, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago for a session, and it blew my
Hmm.
mind. Totally blew my mind. Like you were saying, it's so on point and so appropriate. And you can even do relocation readings where you can see which part of the world is going to really support you in your lifetime or where you should be living. And so I remember doing a reading with him, and he said to me, right now, you're going through this phase. So you're going to be like 4 years of your life is like you need to well, he's not saying you need, but there's a cycle or cycles that I was in where it's really good to just focus on myself. And I remember
Hmm.
going, what do you mean I'm not going to be allowed to build any businesses or, go out there in the world and make an impact? And he was like, that's not the time. This time is for you. And that was when I'd actually burnt out and I was debating whether to stay in Bali or not. And he looked at my chart and he said, Bali will be really good for you because it's going to be so good and nurturing and nourishing. So yeah, like I literally made my decision in that session to like, okay, well, I'm staying. This is where I need to be. And so it's super powerful. And with the shamanic astrology, they're not just looking at your sun sign, you look at your whole chart. So essentially what you want to do is look at your birth chart. And that then gives you a whole description of your essentially like your personality of who you are when you arrived in this world. And astrology is essentially, it's a science. So there's scientific, facts and it bases on the stars essentially. But there's so much to learn and to read and to study, and yeah, there's a lot to discover. But in once you know your birth chart, specifically around career and work, if you're looking at your midheaven, they call it MC in shamanic astrology, then your midheaven, whatever that archetype is will determine what kind of route or how you'll show up in your career. And
Hmm.
for example, my MC is, so I can just give you an example of my chart. My MC is Gemini, And Gemini is very much the playful, fun archetype. So Gemini is almost like the Peter Pans. You know, we never really want to grow up. We just
Right.
want to go and have fun and travel around the world. And yeah, that's definitely me. So it's this really like young energy. But Geminis are really good at communication. So communication, especially from a career point of view, for me, showing up in a way where I know that I can talk to my people or my audience in their language. So I can take something like astrology and make it make sense for them in their everyday life. And it just comes naturally to me. It's not something that I've ever had to work on or I've had to study. It's just who I am. And being able to talk and communicate feels simple and easy for me. It feels like it flows. And then if you look at your rising sign is your ascendant. My ascendant is Leo. And the Leo energy is very much stepping into your power, stepping into your light, and stepping into and owning that leadership role and being able to almost like step onto stage. So I've got this Gemini and this Leo, and I was just like, I know that I'm meant to be out there sharing the message that I'm so passionate about and being able to support people on their journey and being the leader and being the example, because that's the Leo energy. It's all about self-love as well. It's like, how can you really own and work on your self-love, work on your value, and you just kind of inspire people because of who you are, because you are radiating this certain energy. And so for me, it's like, okay, the more I can step up into that Leo self and then have that communication support from my MC, I was like, okay, I know that I'm on purpose. I know that I'm doing the work that I'm meant to be doing, and to be able to be out there and share this with the world. Whereas I've got other friends who are got the Capricorn archetype, and she's really good at organizing stuff. So she was really good at organizing like the back end of retreats. And that's where I burnt out, because I was trying to organize all these retreats with all these ladies, and I was doing all of it. I was the facilitator, I was the star, I was doing like the, holding space for women and the facilitation, which is what I love. And that's good for me and my purpose. But then I was also doing the back end and the organizing and making sure the taxi guy was there on time and organizing all their flights. And there was just so much behind the scenes, and that burnt me out and it drained my energy, because that's not where my life was coming from. That's not what drives me. That's not what what is part of my purpose. Whereas my friend, it's part of hers. And so, in other words, going into business together or doing a project together would be a really great combination. So it's good to know these things about yourself and the people that you're working with, because then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I know now, I'm like, I'm not organizing any retreats. I need to get support with that, but I know where my role is, and that's really being the facilitator. Yeah. So it's super powerful to learn this about yourself as well.
Yes. Now that you've shed light on that, what I was talking about earlier, yes, this is what I was talking about, the birth chart, the rising sun.
Yes.
So it's very spot on, just as you were saying, very spot on.
Amazing.
So almost
And
where
can
you're
you
like,
remember? Yeah. Can you remember what your rising sign is?
I don't think it was Aries. I can't. It was one where like the person's very dynamic.
That's probably
So
Aries.
like it could have been that. Like I know it started with an A,
Okay,
and
yeah, Aquarius, you get Aquarius and
it
you get
was an
Aries,
Aquarius.
but Aquarius is very different energy too. Yeah, Aries is very much they driven. They
Yeah.
very much they like the warrior energy, and they have like this one pointed focus, and they just like, okay, I have this mission and I need to go out there and do that. And especially when there's a purpose behind the mission, then they're very, very driven. So
Yeah.
your rising sign makes so much sense, because you also meant to be doing this. And Progress Lifestyle and your podcast and what you're talking about is very much driving and inspiring other people, and you this warrior Aries energy. So yeah, you seem to be perfectly aligned with your
Yes.
purpose.
Yes. That was it. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, wow, that is
Yeah.
really. I like it made me double think, like maybe what I, thought was just totally wrong about astrology. So I really enjoyed that, of just
Yeah.
having an open mind. It opened my mind to the whole thing.
Exactly. And we don't even have to believe in it or not believe in it. It's just there's fact. It's like electricity. You don't have to believe that electricity works. You just need to turn on the switch, because it does. So the more knowledge, the more we know about ourselves, the more information you have, the more choices you can then make that are aligned with you. And yeah, and I mean, this is what I do with my clients, is when we get to step number 3 and we're working on their purpose and their alignment, we look at their astrology birth chart. I give them a full rundown on their all their different archetypes and what's going to really help and support them. And then we also look at the Ayurvedic dasha, which is this whole like ancient healing modality from India. So it's also been around for 5,000 years. It's very much aligned with yoga. And that also shows you like what kind of exercise is good for you, what kind of foods are good for you, and looking at your personality around that. And then they can then work on, okay, now what path do I want to be creating for myself? And once you have that knowledge and that information, then life just gets so much easier, because then you're like, okay, cool. And we can then look and see, is it good for her to be in her own business, or is it better for her to be, be part of a team and actually work for, still stay in with her corporate? Or I had one, and I mean, I know I keep on talking about women because I am, this
Hey,
is my main
I invited
client.
you on the show because I wanted to hear what you had to say. So you talk any way you want to
Thank
talk.
you. Thanks. But I mean, I have had a lot of male clients as well. So I've done a lot of work with men, and especially in the corporate world, I've done a lot of corporate wellness and through my program too. And I had a client last year, he was retiring. So he was in his 60s and trying to now figure out what is his purpose now after, and very successful doctor. Like now that he's stepping out of that space, what does he want to do?
Right.
And I was just so fascinated that, men, or this guy who's super successful, very corporate, was so interested and open to learning about his astrology and his
Mm,
Ayurvedic doshas and all this weird and wonderful stuff. And by the end, he was like, wow, like the Western world has so much to learn from the Eastern philosophies and things too. And I believe if we can work with both of those and really combine that, how powerful is that? So yeah, like that's definitely something that we work with regards to the envision, which is step 3, which is really envisioning what your dream life would look like and how you're going to create that for yourself. So yeah, perfect.
mm, I love it. What's
Mm.
a what's a typical life for you down there? Like a typical
Well,
day? Just, you wake up. I don't even know the weather. I know it's nice all the time.
yes. So, okay. So at the moment, I'm in South Africa in Cape Town, but as I said, I have been living in Bali for the last 5 years. So a little bit different between these two places, but essentially my day's pretty much the same no matter where I live. So I wake up in the morning without an alarm clock, and I love that
Out
I
an
get to
alarm
do that
clock?
with no alarm clock. I don't know
Really?
when last I set an alarm. Yeah, because I don't have to. I don't structure anything. I don't set anything super early in the morning. And so I naturally wake up according to when my body is ready to wake up. And sometimes, most of the time, that's with the sunrise. It just works
Hmm.
out that way. But sometimes my body needs more sleep and I'll sleep till 8. Sometimes I'm waking up at 5. Who knows? So there's no specific, like, I have to do this every single day. And so it's just naturally when my body's had enough rest, it'll wake up. And then I wake up and I do my 20-minute meditation every day. So TM, wake up, sit up in bed, do my meditation, and just really get into the right zone, like you were saying you do for your day as well. And then I'll decide about my yoga. So I normally tune in, see how my body's feeling on that day, and go, do I feel like I need something more power yoga, or do I need something more relaxing and more gentle, more yin yoga, or do I maybe need to go to a spinning class or hike up the mountain or swim in the ocean? Like, what does my body need from an exercise and movement point of view? And then I'll kind of look at my work day, and I'll have a coaching session. I don't do more than one coaching session a day. So
Mm.
I keep my clients. I really want to focus on my clients. So I don't like to pile in too many sessions, and so I can give them the most energy, and also so that I don't burn out again. So I only take on 2 new clients every month, which is, yeah, it's not a lot of clients for what work I want to do, but I know that then it's going to really serve them so that they feel nurtured and nourished. And so, yeah, one session of clients a day, and then being able to like connect with my social media team or whatever, and make sure, or my VA, and make sure that they all briefed on what's happening. And I always like write my own social content and create their own videos and things, but then I get them to outsource. I will not outsource. I outsource to them so they can repurpose it all, so that it kind of gets spread around. And it's not me having to kind of be on social media all the time.
Mm.
So yeah, and being able to make sure that the clients that have maybe finished the program, they're still feeling nurtured and nourished. So, you know, and also people that aren't clients yet, being able to put stuff out there in free content so that they can get a sense of who I am and what I'm offering and just the bigger picture. So there's like that kind of work, which I love because it's also very creative, and I love being creative and sharing the message, of course. And then, yeah, maybe like lunchtime is my biggest meal. So I'm normally eating a big meal at lunch. I always have breakfast as well. But lunch, I might go out to a restaurant or a cafe or co-working space and do some computer time while I'm having lunch, or meet up with a friend, who knows. And then when I'm in Bali, then I normally end off my day with a massage, which is amazing because you can, because they're everywhere and it's super affordable. Have a massage, or maybe during the week, I like to just have really quiet evenings. So just do, spend a lot of time not really socializing all that much, because I can be a bit of a social bunny. So then on weekends, it's more connecting with friends. And when I'm in Bali, we go on a Friday night, is always going ecstatic dancing. And we at the yoga bar, and ecstatic dancing is amazing. It's like there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no cell phones, there's no shoes, there's no talking. So you literally just get on the dance floor and dance. Yeah, I know, it's incredible. And it's packed. There's 150 people on the dance floor every week. And that's what you do on a Friday night in the wood. And so you meet up with all your friends and have a chat and have dinner afterwards. And it's really social and fun. And then, yeah, I mean, there's so many different things on the go there, which is, you know, all these conscious events. So whether it's sound healing or cacao ceremonies, or yeah, there's so many things happening. So that's my life when I'm there. And then when I'm not in a bud, I'm also often on the island, one of the islands. And then like the island that I spend a lot of time on is called Gili Air Island. So it's just off Bali. And it's so tiny, it takes an hour to walk around the whole island. So it's like, it's minute. And there's no motorized transport on there. So there's no cars, there's no scooters. There's literally, you walk or you cycle, or you can hire a horse cart to like take luggage and things. And so it's such a different life to living in a city. And then you're waking up in the morning and we're going stand up paddling at sunrise, or going swimming a lot in the ocean. I love that. So yeah, I mean, obviously my work is really important, but so is having a life, and so living a life. And so for me, success isn't about having this huge, big business, or, you know, being a millionaire. It's about having a balanced lifestyle. And I want to be able to just chill and go swimming in the ocean in the morning if I want to. So that's the life that I've created for myself in Bali. And now being back in Cape Town's my hometown. So my family's here, my friends are here, and my relationships here now. And so it's really about connecting with that community, those people again. We spend a lot of time outdoors as well, in nature, going for full moon hikes and doing a lot of yoga. So it's my life. Like what I'm teaching to everybody else is what I'm living every day. And then, yeah, then there's the, going off and doing a speaking event, or doing a corporate wellness event, or being on a podcast like here with you. So it's a full life, but it's very balanced. And not to say there's not like anxiety and hardships or times that can be really challenging. Of course they are, but it's just really how to handle that stress along the way. And got to still keep on reminding myself to not pile in too much. So trying to keep myself balanced. But yeah, that's kind of essentially what my life generally looks like. And I love travel. So I love being able to connect with people all over the world and being able to visit all these various places. But it's always about keeping my energy in check and just knowing how I'm feeling in that moment, and putting a lot of fire breaks, I call them, a lot of space in my diary, so that I don't pile in too much, and just having like some space to be able to be flexible as well and let life happen.
Do you feel like whenever you start waking up too many times that you got to do something, you're like, I don't really want to do it, when that starts to build up, that's a clear sign that you got to clear more space in your day to be like, I got more time for me, because I'm getting way too, that feeling shouldn't happen too much.
Totally. And I mean, I was even getting that recently, because my next month is coming up, is like, sure, it's quite full on. There's a lot actually happening, because I'm heading back to Bali. I'm doing retreats in October. And so, yeah, there's a lot to squeeze in before I go back. And I was just looking at my diary, and straight away I'm like, oh, like feeling a little like, oh, anxiety.
Yeah.
How am I going to put this all in? How am I going to handle it? And as soon as I start feeling that, and that whole like, it's just life. When we have this feeling where like everything starts closing up, then I'm like, okay, no, I need to create more space. So then, yeah, it's not setting up a whole lot of other meetings. It's just like, okay, I need to block out some more free time and then see what happens. And if in that moment I've got a whole lot of energy, great, then I can meet up with somebody or set up another meeting or do more work. But rather have a little bit more breathing space in my diary to let things flow naturally. Because when everything is so contrived and so organized and so like one thing's, you know, specifically after the next, then there's no breathing space for error, first of all. So when something goes wrong or we're late, then it messes up the whole day. And but if there's a little bit of breathing room, then you're like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about rushing. And that just takes so much stress out of our lives. And it's also part of the slowing down and the letting go and doing less. And my ebook is all around, you know, Superwoman Unplugged. It's all about how we can live our best life, but by doing less. And we can live our best life, but it doesn't have to be doing too much. It's like, how can we do that in a different way?
Love it. Real quick, what are just some tips and tricks that people can incorporate right away to prevent burnout from coming? Or they're on the path to a little bit of burnout and just to get themselves realigned?
Yeah, beautiful question. I'd say the first thing is, yeah, slow down, write down, clear out your diary, do what you can to do less, essentially, like I was just saying. Don't say yes to everything. Like, I know I was also a yes girl before. It's like learning the power of saying no. And even if we feel like because we want to give back to everybody else, we want to help everyone, it's about really containing your own energy and having boundaries. So saying no is really important for your own energy. And so eliminating some of the things in your diary, saying no to things that are coming up, and start looking after your energy levels. Like, that is really important. And I always say, because when we talk about vibration, kind of get a sense, like, we all have this intuition and this feeling of something feels right or it doesn't. And if something doesn't feel right for you, then you'll sense that. And so I always say, like, gauge it on a 0 out of 10. Does this serve me? It's a nice question to ask. Does this serve me? If I go to this place, or if I say yes to this meeting, will it serve me? If I take on this client, will it serve me? And then you start making decisions and choices around your intuition and what's going to support you and your health, rather than doing it from your mind and what's going to maybe support your bank balance, if that makes sense. And in the end, it's all going to be supporting you anyway, so the finances will just flow. So saying no to things, cutting things out your diary, giving yourself some space, and really then starting to tune into yourself, of like listening to your intuition. What does my body need right now? Sometimes it needs a piece of chocolate cake, and that's okay. Or not chocolate cake, maybe even just a slice of chocolate, who knows.
Maybe
But
you get a
sometimes
crumb.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it's not about depriving ourselves either. It's like
Right.
having that balance. And so tuning into your body, tuning into your intuition. And so rating a 0 out of 10, I always say, see if you can live a 7 and above, because we're not going to be 10 out of 10 all the time, but a 7 and above of like, how happy am I in the situation? How is this going to serve me? Yes or no? Like, where is that on the scale? And when we're making those choices coming from a place that's like this internal knowing and our intuition and this inner voice and this guidance, that just guides us into being more in flow. And then, yeah, then the letting go of what is not serving us. And by doing that, then we can start in this whole process of, what is my purpose and how can I make a difference in the world? But you can't do that if you don't have any energy. You can't even think that way if you're burnt out. So it's the step-by-step process of doing things slowly, and yeah, looking after your nutrition, getting enough sleep, eating well, having regular exercise, get some yoga in there, do meditation. And as I said, I share this all in my Burnout to Bliss program, or the online course. It's super simple, actually. But there's so many people that aren't doing this. And I see this with my corporate clients as well. I mean, I had one guy, he was a high-end manager, super intelligent guy, didn't eat during the day, drank 10 cups of coffee and with 2 teaspoons of sugar in it, and then wondered why he couldn't function and why he had a headache at the end of the day. I'm like,
Mm,
well, it's simple, really. Eat something.
mm,
So it's about nurturing ourselves. It's we all know this information, but we sometimes forget about all of it when we're on this path of I have to be successful and I have to push through. And so being more gentle on yourself, being more compassionate, taking time out, resting. And resting doesn't mean lying in front of the TV watching Netflix. It literally is like close your eyes and sleep.
mm,
And yeah, like those are just a few little tips and tools. But yeah, I hope that makes a lot of sense. But it really is really coming back to basics and how to simplify your life rather than make it more complicated.
Love the basics. Everything, the
Mm,
foundation on everything is basic. Mastering the basics.
totally.
And just
Totally.
real quick for my female listeners, because I do have female listeners,
Yeah. Hello,
what are
ladies.
some like things that they can do to get some of that feminine energy back? Because it's so, like I
Mm,
said, it's such a beautiful thing when women are just fully in their feminine.
yeah.
It's one of the like, especially with my daughter when she's in her feminine, it's such a joy. It's like
That's
nothing
so
else
cute.
matters.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. How old is your daughter?
She's 6.
Oh, that's such a great age. My little
Mm,
niece is 5 and they're just gorgeous at that age.
hmm.
And they're really in their feminine energy at that age.
Yes.
Like they are such beautiful princesses and prancing around and absolutely gorgeous. And somewhere along the line, I don't know, it gets beaten out of us, I think. But yeah, feminine energy, how to tap into that. I would say, especially for the ladies in their 30s and 40s, it's about really tuning into your cycle. So we all have cycles in our lives, and men have this as well because we have the seasons. So those are like kind of the bigger cycles in the year. And knowing when, like in winter, it's really good to be hibernating more. Summer is great to like get out there and do more stuff. So looking at the seasons of the year, then within each month, looking at the moon cycle. And
Mm,
when it's full moon, which for us today, actually, it's full moon in Pisces, it's about taking that time to rest over full moon and be grateful. And so tapping into that. And then for women, we've obviously got our own menstrual cycle that we're working with as well. And what I've noticed, and especially in our striving, superwoman life that we're all living, is that women forget to nurture and forget to look after themselves. And we haven't been taught to do that over that period. So when we're going through our cycle, we just keep on pushing through. We keep on working hard. We keep on going to gym and exercising. And it's actually totally going against nature. So it makes things much harder for us. We land up having huge, big symptoms of, cramps and just everything's unbalanced. Our hormones are imbalanced. And so, like, I literally live by my cycle. I take 3 days out of the month and I don't plan anything in my diary. I block everything out. I don't plan any meetings. I don't plan any social events. Like, I'm not available. I'm in my moon cave and I need to rest. So
mm,
working with our cycle, then we know. And then obviously 2 weeks later, I'm like, okay, I've got so much energy. I need to be out there in the world and I want to connect with people again. And by doing that, we're then giving ourselves enough rest during the month to rest when we need to rest. And it's our body's way of telling us, slow down, rest. This is what you need right now. So when we're working with our own cycles, then we have that time every month to rest and recover. And then we're like, okay, now I've got energy to go again. So that's just like one way to help women, especially to not be burning out. And while we're doing that, we're then getting tapped in, taking that time out, slowing down, being able to tune into our feminine energy and be more gentle and compassionate on ourselves means that we then have that energy to be in that feminine space and just own being a woman, own that we don't have the strength and the capacity that men have, because we don't. We're different. And I know everyone's always like, women live and we all equal. And I always say that I don't see men and women as equal. I feel like we are complementary. And men have certain qualities, women have certain qualities. And if we could just really be in that space of owning those qualities, then that's also such a beautiful way of being able to complement and support each other along the way. So for women, I highly suggest read my ebook. I've got a whole lot of tips in there of how to really bring more of that yin energy, that feminine energy, and really magnetize and attract and manifest what we want in our life rather than having to push and strive and try and achieve it and be in that too much in that masculine role.
I love that. I love that. You're probably one of the first people that I've heard talk about that there's complementary, like it's not equal, it's complementary. Because there
And how
is,
does that feel for you as a man hearing that?
what do you mean? Like,
But just like that, you know, it's not a woman now saying, oh, but we equal, we actually like we complement each other. How does that resonate for you? Does it feel, oh yeah, I get what she's saying, or does it feel like for you, no, that doesn't resonate for you?
no, it does resonate because
Yeah, okay.
it's so true. Like, I think you touched on it. There's things that men are built to do. There's things
Yeah.
that women are built to do.
Yeah.
And so when those two, you know, the yin and the yang come together, it's beautiful. Like
Yes.
it, you know, I've had fortunate that, you know, been in a few relationships where the woman was just totally in her feminine. And it's just like one of the most beautiful things that can ever experience, especially as a man. You know,
Oh, that's so great to hear. And actually, in my ebook, I was sharing a story in there from an ex-boyfriend, and I found a letter recently that he had written, and just his interpretation and his version of when he met me. I was actually going through my burnout, so I was very much in my yin energy and having to rely on a man to kind of do things and help me because I couldn't do it myself. And then at some point I was moving out of my offices in my yoga studio, and he came to help, and I was back in that like organizing masculine space, and he was like, whoa, I don't even know who you are right now. And so interesting hearing his perception of when I was being, he felt it like too much in my masculine, and I felt like I was just like, oh yeah, I'm back on track again, and you know, I'm not being this messy emotional version of me. And in fact, he loved that more feminine side. So it's interesting to hear the male's perception of it and his interpretation. And yeah, so in the ebook, it's a great story of what his view was. And when I thought I was in power and I was like on top of the world and I knew what I was doing, and how he saw that. And it's so wonderful to hear you, Brett, also say like, you know, being in relationships with women who are really in that feminine energy, and how I can just imagine for a man, it must be really amazing because then you feel like you can really do your role as well, which is that protector and, you know, supporter and being able to hold that space for her. So yeah, it's wonderful that you've had that experience.
right. But not only that, but it's beautiful, you know, for a woman too, when a man is totally in his masculine,
Oh, yes.
because, you know, we hear so many times like men have to be more emotional and all this stuff. And it's like, sure, but you have to really explain what that means. And I had another female on, and I was explaining to her, like, that's like as simple as, you know, you see your woman, you come home, like she had just done her hair and like she looks great. It's like being able to truly embrace her, just like, wow, I love what you did with your hair. And then you're like, on the spot, you know what, we're going out tonight. Let's go. And they
Amazing.
love that. It's amazing.
Amazing.
And just,
Amazing.
but just being able as a man walk through a door and like, it's nothing that a woman has to say. You can just feel it. You can sense it. You can see it in her eyes. And it's
Yeah.
just, it lights up and you're like, wow,
Mm.
everything that, you know, the hardest day I just put in, just, you know, and the stress that it doesn't matter anymore. Like that.
So worth it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you know what, how beautiful. You walk in, you've got this, you know, she's made an effort as well, and she's just in her
Mm.
beautiful feminine. And you know what you did in that moment, which is so incredible? You totally owned your masculine, and you're like, and you took action. You're like, okay, come, let's go out and celebrate this, you know, and let's do something about it. You didn't just sit down and go, okay, well, you know, where's my dinner? And
Right.
I've had a long day, and moan
Right.
about your work office day or whatever the story is. So like you were really just being in your beautiful masculine self. She was being in a beautiful feminine self. And it just was this incredible experience that, you know, you still remember now. And so if we can all just be the best versions of ourselves, then, you know, then we can show up in a beautiful way for our partner and for everybody else in the world. So yeah, I just feel like that is how we can be living our best life, is really how to be the best version of you, and whatever that means for yourself as well. So for us women to be more in our feminine, for you guys to be in your masculine, but both of us, all of us, to be able to still be vulnerable, to still show our emotions, to be open, to be honest, to be caring, those qualities all come through as well. So yeah, being more human, I suppose, and trying to be less superheroes.
Yes, I love that. Just be more human.
Be more human, be more you. Yeah.
Sharni, where can people find you again?
They can find me. My website is sharniquinn.com. So definitely go through there. I've got a whole lot of blogs and inspiration for you there. I'm often I'm always on Instagram. So Instagram is probably the best social media platform, but I am on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. But on Instagram, I'm @SharniQuinn_wellness. And then, yeah, I would love to offer your listeners also offer 30-minute free coaching sessions to just really support and hear where they're at, and then see if there's any way of, whether it's my program or my online courses or coming with me on a retreat to Bali, or how I can really support them on their journey and help them to live their best life. So they're welcome to, it's all you can just go onto my website and you'll find that link, go to my contact page, and you'll be able to book a free 30-minute coaching call with me. But otherwise, yeah, sign up for the ebook, and then there'll be regular weekly wellness tips and inspiration that I share. And I would love to hear from them as well. So all you listeners out there, would love to hear your feedback on what Brett and I have been discussing today, and your thoughts around how you feel about everything that we've spoken about, and just connect in general. Would love to connect and chat and create this, this big, beautiful tribe in the world where we all just, living our best lives, making the world a better place, and doing so, what your message is about, Brett, your pure progress lifestyle, like doing the best that we can with what we've got.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And yeah, I love your line about making your own way. Like, how do we do this? How can we do this in our own way? So I'm very grateful for you to reach out and have me on the show, and love the chat. And I can't believe we can talk for so long about all this stuff. I'm sure we could just carry on talking for hours, but I suppose we do need to stop at some point.
Easily.
Yeah, but lovely to meet you, and thank you so much. And yeah, I look forward to just staying connected, really.
Absolutely. You as well. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I'll see you.
Thank you so much.